We're headed to the Columbia River Gorge. It's this absolutely gorgeous region in the Pacific Northwest, and it is overflowing with agricultural wealth. I mean, it's a farmer's paradise. But all that abundance is hiding a really surprising and difficult truth.
I mean, just look at this. This is the image the gorge is famous for, right? A stunning bounty of fresh, vibrant produce. It looks like a picture of pure abundance, almost like a modern-day Garden of Eden. But, you know that picture? It doesn't even begin to tell the whole story.
And that's the heart of the paradox we're digging into today. How can a place that grows so much food have so many people living there who are going hungry? It just doesn't seem to add up. So let's get into it.
To really understand this puzzle, we've got to start with the people who are actually growing the food, the local farmers.
Okay, so here's the first big piece of the puzzle. You'd think all this food would go to local tables, but nope, the vast majority of what's grown here gets shipped far, far away. The whole system is built for export. Now, there are a few farms trying to change that and sell locally, but it's an uphill battle.
So, when you ask farmers in the area what their biggest threats are, you might expect to hear about drought or pests, but look at this. 2/3 of them said the number one problem is just that it's hard to make a living, and almost half pointed directly to a lack of local markets to sell to.
And this quote from a local farmer just says it all, doesn't it? It's so direct. They want to sell to their neighbors. They need help building those connections right there in their own community.
So you might be thinking, okay, what about a place like a school? That seems like a perfect match, right? Local farms, fresh food, local kids. But even when that market exists, it's not that simple. There's a serious disconnect.
And it's not for a lack of trying. The schools are totally on board. The food service director in Hood River is crystal clear. They want to buy local. They know it's better for the kids and for the local economy. So what's the holdup?
This is the barrier, $1.10. That is the entire food budget for one school meal. Just let that sink in for a second. That tiny amount has to cover a protein, a vegetable, a fruit, everything.
And that tiny budget forces some really, really tough choices. Take a look at this. For a serving of protein, they can get processed chicken nuggets for 36 cents. But fresh, healthier chicken legs, they cost 74 cents, more than double. If they choose the fresh chicken, they're left with pennies for the rest of the meal. The budget basically forces them to choose the cheaper, more processed option.
Okay, so we've seen the challenges from the farmer side. Now, let's flip the coin and look at the other side of this paradox, the daily reality for families who actually live in the gorge.
The official term for this is food insecurity. And it's important to know this isn't just about being hungry in a single moment. It's this constant, gnawing uncertainty of not knowing if you'll have enough money or resources to put food on the table tomorrow. It's a huge source of stress.
And a huge reason for this struggle is, well, economics. Across the entire region, more than 15% of the people who live there are below the federal poverty line. That makes balancing rent, bills, and food an incredibly difficult challenge every single day.
And if you zoom in on specific areas, the picture gets even more stark. In Klickitat County, for example, that poverty rate jumps to nearly 20%. That's 1 in 5 people.
Now, on top of the money issues, you've got geography. This is a big, rural place. For some folks, just getting to a real grocery store means a 67-mile round trip. Think about the time and the gas money that takes. It's another huge barrier.
And this is where the numbers become heartbreakingly human. In just one county, Skamania County, almost 1 out of every 5 parents said that they have personally skipped meals just to make sure their kids had enough to eat.
And this quote from a resident just captures that impossible choice perfectly. The desire is there. Of course they want to eat healthy, organic food, but the price tag puts it completely out of reach, so they sacrifice their own health for their kids.
Okay, I know this all sounds pretty bleak, but here's the good news. The report that uncovered all of this didn't just point out the problems. It also laid out a clear path forward, a way to finally connect these local farms with the local families who need them.
So the plan is all about building a stronger local food system from the ground up. That means things like actually developing those local markets we've been talking about, fixing the gaps in the supply chain like processing and distribution, and then making a real push to get more fresh local food into schools and food pantries. And just as important, teaching people what to do with that fresh food through cooking classes.
And get this, there is a massive economic upside to doing this.
The report found that if people in the gorge could shift just 20% of their food spending to local sources, it would pump an extra $9.6 million into the local economy every single year.
In the end, it all comes back to this simple, powerful observation from someone who lives there. It just perfectly sums up the entire paradox we've been talking about.
And that really leaves us with one final question to think about. The specific challenges in the gorge might be unique, but the basic problems, access, cost, distribution, those exist pretty much everywhere. So it's worth asking yourself, what does the food system look like where you live, and who might be getting left behind?